So the future of the Section 8 program is up in the air right now, and a lot of people are worried about it, especially because Donald Trump's one big beautiful bill just recently passed. Now the bill itself doesn't specifically address Section 8 and mainly focuses on tax cuts and government spending, but it does address programs like Medicaid and food stamps, which a lot of Section 8 tenants are also a part of. The bill puts a lot more responsibility of those programs onto the states, which is exactly what the Trump administration and HUD Secretary Scott Turner wants to do with the Section 8 program. Scott Turner just recently testified in front of the House and Senate Appropriations Committee, detailing the Trump administration's agenda when it comes to HUD, Section 8, and other housing programs. And their agenda is clear: to implement major changes which would have a major impact. Some of those changes include slashing the HUD budget in half, eliminating Section 8 as a federal program and transferring it to the states, and implementing time limits and work requirements for eligible participants.
The budget requests $43.5 billion for the department funding critical programs and providing greater fiscal responsibility and restraint. It proposes a state-based formula grant to encourage states to have skin in the game for the funding and design of their own rental assistance. The budget also continued HUD's commitment to promoting economic independence around work requirements and time limits that will encourage able-bodied residents to move up and to move out of assisted housing.
Now, just about everybody at these hearings challenged this proposal, especially the part where he wanted to slash the HUD budget in half, and they called him out on it.
I'll tell you right now, looking at your budget request, as far as I'm concerned, as vice chair of this committee, it's not going anywhere.
I must say, just right off the top, that I looked at this budget, but this budget, Mr. Secretary, is not a serious proposal. It does not meet the urgent housing needs of our country. A 50% cut to all the programs at HUD would be devastating to families.
Now, even though members of the House and Senate's Appropriations Committees addressed their concerns and seemed to strongly disagree with the proposal, the HUD Secretary stood 10 toes down for his administration and continued to back it. According to Scott Turner, the Section 8 program is full of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Found HUD's rental assistance to be full of waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a lot of waste, there's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of abuse in our system. We found that HUD's rental assistance to be full of waste, fraud, and abuse.
But it seems like he's not trying to actually fix the problems, but more so just shift the problem onto the states. And this was also a point that was brought up during his testimony with the Senate Appropriations Committee.
The solution to eliminating all of these services and then rolling them up into a new block grant program, I will assert, Mr. Secretary, will simply shift the burden onto states and counties. States and counties will end up being forced to pick up services for people who will become newly unhoused.
The way that things have been going with our government and Congress under this administration, we never know what will get passed, no matter how ridiculous it may sound. And this proposal was not only ridiculous, but if implemented, it would also be very dangerous. It would not only affect Section 8 tenants and landlords, but everyone, and would eventually lead to the end of the Section 8 program as we know it. And we're about to go over everything that's wrong with their agenda and exactly what it means for the rest of us. Now, first things first, if HUD's agenda were to be implemented, it would definitely lead to higher taxes. Now, despite HUD Secretary Scott Turner's claims,
the president's budget would save billions of taxpayer dollars.
This is just not the case. The federal government wants to cut funding from departments like HUD and add that funding to other departments like the Department of Homeland Security, which would get an extra $43 billion, or the Department of Defense that would get an extra $113 billion, or just to slash taxes for the wealthy. In fact, with the president's one big beautiful bill, the debt ceiling will be raised by about $5 trillion. This country is going more into debt. Taxes are going to go up unless you're a part of the top 1%. But for people like me and most likely you, our taxes aren't going to get cut. This isn't a situation where the federal government is saying, look, since we're cutting federal programs, we're going to cut your federal taxes. No, because that money is going to be used elsewhere on other programs. So if the federal government's plan is to transfer federal programs like Section 8, Medicaid, and food stamps, programs that are extremely expensive to run, if they plan to transfer those to state governments, now guess what? States are going to be underfunded, which will eventually lead to higher state taxes. A lot of states are already strapped for cash and don't have the funds or the wherewithal to just pick up additional programs, especially critical programs that deal with housing, food, and medical. This is going to cost money, and a lot of it. So not only will we lose federal programs and have to pay more in federal taxes, but we'll also gain state programs, which will lead to us paying even more in state taxes. This is going to affect everyone, on, especially the middle and working class. Now, the biggest difference between voucher programs like Section 8 and programs like SNAP and Medicaid is SNAP and Medicaid are self-dependent programs that are strictly ran by the government, while the Housing Choice Voucher Program, even though it's ran by the government, it depends on partnerships with private landlords in order for the program to run. And one of the biggest problems with trying to shift the Section 8 program onto the states and implementing stricter eligibility requirements for participants is it's turning landlords away. As a Section 8 landlord, if I'm told that my tenants are only going to be able to receive rental assistance for a maximum of 2 years, this will definitely drive me away from the program. Having voucher holder tenants stay longer at a property is a huge benefit to renting through the Section 8 program as a landlord, because on average, Section 8 tenants stay a lot longer than private tenants. But now you're taking one of our biggest benefits away. Turnover and vacancy expenses is a landlord's biggest expense, and now you're forcing us to go through that every 2 years. Who wants to constantly have to screen and vet tenants every other year? At the very least, the minimum should be no less than 5 years, but I'm more of a fan of 7 to 10 year time limits. But 2 year time limits is gonna kill the program because of lack of landlord participation. I'm already getting messages from Section 8 landlords about selling their properties or switching over to renting to private tenants. This is not good for the Section 8 program. And the same thing goes with work requirements. Yes, I agree with requiring certain participants to work, but it can't be so cut and dry like if you have a job, you get the benefits. If you lose your jobs, you lose your benefits. That's taking away another major benefit from Section 8 landlords, which is the tenants' benefits will continue and their portion of the rent will be covered if they happen to lose their job. During the pandemic, when a lot of people weren't working, the government had to implement laws that didn't require them to pay their rent or their mortgage. Well, Section 8 landlords didn't have to worry about that and got paid in full every month, whether the tenant was working or not. Take this benefit away and you're gonna lose a lot of landlord participation. And one of the senators at Scott Turner's testimony with the Senate Appropriations Committee understands that private landlord participation is the backbone of the Section 8 program.
And I'm working on a bipartisan piece of legislation with Senator Kramer of North Dakota called the Choice in Affordable Housing Act. And it would make housing choice vouchers more accessible. It would do a better job of attracting and retaining private sector landlords to the program. It's got a wide range of groups involved in housing production, housing advocacy, supporting it. And I'd like you to commit to working with me on that legislation to see if we can make progress on improving the Housing Choice Vouchers program. Is that something you'd be willing to work with me on?
Thank you, Senator. It's great to see you, sir. And I do look forward to seeing the language and hearing from you and your staff and how we can work together. Obviously, the housing affordability is a top priority of mine, and taking care of American people and also people to see people live lives of self-sustainability.
The HUD secretary agreed to look at the program, but obviously didn't give his commitment. Most likely it's not going to happen, but it's unfortunate because without these private landlords, I don't care how many Section 8 vouchers are given throughout the states. They won't have anywhere to rent. Now, Scott Turner keeps reiterating that the goal of rental assistance is to provide temporary assistance to help participants become self-dependent. But if the government truly wanted to help people become self-dependent, instead of wanting to provide them with assistance for 2 years and then immediately snatching it away, they could maybe provide the maximum assistance for the first 2 years, and then over time, the benefits gradually decrease year by year. That seems like a better option. And instead of implementing work requirements at a time when it's extremely competitive and difficult for even college graduates to find a job, they'd implement changes where housing authorities would maybe provide work study programs, teaching participants important critical job skills, or programs that help participants find employment. This is how you help families get to self-dependency. It's a famous saying that if you give a man some food, you'd feed him for an evening. But if you teach him how to fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime. And it seems like this administration wants to provide assistance for 2 years, snatch the benefits away, and can care less what happens as a family is no longer receiving benefits. That's not how you help families become self-dependent. Now, all in all, I strongly believe that Trump's Section 8 agenda, if implemented, would destroy the Section 8 program. And my advice to anyone that depends on the Section 8 program is, if you're able to, then do everything that you can to not have to rely on government assistance. I know it's easier said than done, but no one wants to live with the constant threat of possibly losing their benefits at the drop of a dime. Use these latest situations as motivations to try and put yourself in a position where you don't depend on their assistance. And one of the first actions you take can be give getting your credit together. Every Section 8 tenant that I've ever screened had a credit score less than 600. And at a time where people need to start trying to better their situation, believe it or not, it starts with bettering your credit. And to help you with that, I highly recommend you check out the sponsor of today's video, Smart Credit. Smart Credit is a DIY platform for credit, and it gives you all the tools you need to stay on top of and efficiently self-manage your credit and finances. It has this score boost feature that'll tell you exactly what you need to do to get the most points in the fastest amount of time on your credit score, with members adding an average of 34 points in as little as 30 days. You can literally move the slider back and forth, and it tells you how much to pay on each card and on which date in order for you to maximize your points. And when it's time for you to spend some money, because let's be real, saving is fun, but spending is fun too. It has a feature that'll show you how spending will affect your score, telling you which cards to spend on that'll cause the least amount of damage to your credit score. So in other words, you'll get a personalized spending and savings plan to help you add the most points and also keep you from losing the most points. It's the best of both worlds. And then there's this score builder tool, which is a feature that'll help you correct errors on your account. If there's anything on your credit that you don't agree with the click of a button, you're able to contact your creditors or financial institutions to correct those errors and potentially have them removed. And speaking of errors on your credit account, Smart Credit also includes $1 million in fraud and scam insurance and credit monitoring. So you'll know if anyone ever tries to steal your identity and open up accounts in your name. So all in all, this platform has the perfect setup for you to take action yourself, giving you all the tools you need to maximize, manage, and protect your credit, finances, and ID. You can sign up for Smart Credit with my personalized link in the description, where you can get a 7-day trial for just $1. Yes, $1. And just like so many others have already done, you can begin to take control of your credit with Smart Credit. So sign up with the link in the description. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe to stay up to date on the nation's latest housing news. And as always, can't wait to see you in the next video.